Namo Buddhaya Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Hi, Bhante. I signed up for the newsletter, but I haven't received any emails yet with the suttas. I think you're on mute. No.
You're still muted, Bhante.
There's a little thing next to Bhante's name that looks like an airplane or something.
Where's that?
Do you see it?
On my computer, it doesn't have me.
It doesn't look like a regular. Oh,
I can hear you now, Bhante. You may need to speak up, but I can hear you now.
I can't.
Yeah, now you're gone again. I don't know what happened. I could hear you a little bit before. Still can't hear you. But I see a mute button next to your name on my phone.
But it looks different. When Bhante hit it before, it turned red like ours, and then he hit it again, but it looks white with a little, it looks almost look like an airplane or a
Yeah, it does
tree.
look weird, but it's before I didn't know it was crossed out. But
Mm.
yeah, I haven't seen anything look like that before either. But up, I'm sure it's up.
You can't hear me for some reason. Did you try to? That thing's not working either. That's not working. What is your? So no one can hear me.
Yeah, I heard you. Just faint. It was faint, right? You guys.
Yeah, it was faint. It was faint. It was faint for
There.
me as well.
That's better. Oh,
So the button is not the normal unmute button. It's white with a person with an arrow looking up. Yeah.
I wonder if I'm on the right mic. You can try a different mic because this one's not on. Oh, it keeps changing. What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Much better now.
Don't.
So this one's working.
So you can still hear? Can you hear me? No? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. Hear you now.
But now it's normal again.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go ahead and begin with reciting Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who like to do that. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Good evening, friends. Welcome to this evening, Wednesday evening Zoom program, Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope you're all able to read the sutta that I sent out on the mailing. And actually, yeah, somebody was asking me just a few minutes ago that they're not receiving the mailing. Now, you know, I'm using a mailing called Google Groups. And if you don't have a Google email address, sometimes it doesn't accept it. And a number of people have had, sometimes Yahoo works, but people have all, you know, various other things. It kind of doesn't accept it, or it's something funny anyway. So sometimes I forward it to people, just forward the newsletter once it's sent out. If I have their email address, I forward it to them. Now, anyway, so tonight we're going to go over the Vitakka Santana Sutta, or the Buddha's advice on the 5 ways of removing distracting thoughts. Now, this is sort of a follow-up from what we went over last week. The Sabbasava Sutta, we went over last week, the 7 ways of overcoming defilements. But a lot of those ways were things that you do kind of in your daily life, like, you know, avoiding dangerous places and kind of things like that, restraining oneself and developing right understanding. But this sutta is particularly about when you're actually meditating. So when you're in meditation, And then you get, carried away in various thoughts. Now, normally the first thing that we do when you find yourself getting carried away in a thought, let's say you're trying to watch your breath, count your breaths, or just, watch your breath, or keep remembering breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, but then you catch yourself lost in a thought. So normally the first thing you would try to recognize, the mind is getting carried away in thoughts now. You have to be aware of that. And, or just like being aware of thinking, making a note of just, thinking. And if your mindfulness is strong enough, that thought may fall away. But it may come back again. And, our thoughts are sort of like a nagging or, dog that's following us down the street, trying to bite our pant leg. So let's say if you are walking down the street and some neighbor's dog or some stray dog, kind of runs after you, gets your pant leg and just pulling like that. So then you shake your leg and you shake him off. But then he may stop for a moment, you take a few steps, but then he comes back again and grabs your pant leg again. And that may happen 3 or 4 times. It keeps coming back. So then what do? You pick up a stick and you throw it. And the dog gets distracted and runs after the stick and gives you time to go into your yard and close your gate or get on your bicycle and drive away. So like that, these ways of dealing with distracting thoughts are similar to that. So if the mindfulness itself doesn't work, just by making, thinking, it may drop away. And if your concentration is strong, you can come back to your breathing and, back to your counting, maybe for 1 or 2 counts, but then the thought may come back. So this is what the sutra is sort of dealing with, these kind of thoughts that keep coming back and how we can deal with them. So how many of you were able to read the sutta? Any of you read that sutta that I sent out? Okay. So the Buddha is saying, so actually he's saying when a person is intent on the higher mind, developing the higher mind, that means they're in meditation and they're trying to develop a deeper level of concentration or moment-to-moment awareness. So when an evil, unskillful thought connected with desire, aversion, or delusion, most of our thoughts are going to be connected with some kind of sensual desire or some aversion. Maybe you remember somebody who insulted you and you're getting upset with them and you have an aversion or ill will or thinking bad thoughts about somebody or some group of people. So that's a thought connected with hatred or aversion. Or it's a sensual desire. You think, where can I go out and get them some nice tasty food now? Or maybe you're thinking about a person. Those are very common, of course. A friend or somebody you saw, and then you start to think about them. Oh, I like to, get closer to that person or whatever. So anyway, some kind of sensual thought. Or delusion, just some sort of deluded thought. So if that keeps coming back, then the person should think about another thought that's connected with the opposite quality. So especially in terms of, let's say, aversion. if you're thinking some ill thoughts about a certain person, then you can substitute it by sending metta, or you can also contemplate, understand that person, they're saying or doing these things to me that I don't like because they themselves are, deluded. They themselves have their own defilements. And so instead send them metta, wish that they could be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. Send them thoughts, may they be well and happy. Because if they were truly well and happy, they wouldn't do things that disturb us. And especially nowadays with all these changes that are going on, with the new government and all these things that are going on, a lot of people are getting upset because, things are changing. And, a lot of times it is hurting, making it difficult for people to live, threatening their jobs, threatening, different things. So there's probably a lot of ill will, going on in people's minds. And these people are deluded. They think, what they think. Of course, everybody is entitled to what they think. But anyway, but in case of ill will, one should substitute a thought of metta. That may these people, I usually say, may they be able to learn and practice a Dhamma, learn and practice meditation, then maybe they would overcome some of those deluded thoughts. So, thinking them to be well and happy, to be wise, and so on, rather than just, increasing your ill will. Or if it's a thought of lust or, sensual desire, we only look at the beautiful aspects of an object. And if we're thinking, oh, what that beautiful person looked at, and there's all these, you're looking at their the 5 outer things. Oh, look at their beautiful creamy skin. Look at their nice hair. Look at their nails, their teeth, perfect teeth. This increases our sensual desire. So instead, contemplate impermanence. Okay, the person might be like that now, but if they got in a traffic accident and got all mangled up, would you still have the same kind of desire for that? Probably not. Or, that person might be young now, but when they get old, everything is subject to change. So you contemplate impermanence and how these objects that are attracting your desire, how they can change very quickly. And they could be taken away from us very quickly. So while you're contemplating that thought of desire or aversion or delusion might go away or drop away, and then you come back, reconnect with your breathing, maybe take a deep, slow breath, bring the mind back into the body, and then continue with counting your breaths or just developing your moment-to-moment flow of awareness. So that's the first of these techniques, is you kind of substitute a negative thought for a skillful thought. A skillful thought means these thoughts of non-greed, of non-hatred, and thought of wisdom. So, because you can't think of 2 thoughts at the same time. So normally we get carried away because we have attachment to our beliefs and our opinions about things. So we have to see how even these attachments and opinions are just habits that we've been cultivating. So it's like, you're substituting one thought for another. So he gives the example. The example in that first one is how a carpenter might use a small peg to knock out or drive out a larger peg. So in order to drive one kind of thought out, we substitute it by a skillful thought, at least a thought connected with the Dhamma. because those thoughts are wholesome and they could lead us to, developing more concentration. At some point, of course, you have to let go of even those thoughts. But the thing is that you have to substitute the negative thoughts for a wholesome thought. And then that thought, normally the wholesome thoughts don't really bother us that much. It's the negative ones, or the thoughts of sensual desires and delusions. These are the ones that, make our mind, more delusion in our mind. Or would cause you to take some action based on satisfying that aversion or sensual desire. So let's say, okay, that works, and you come back to your concentration, and then you're able to concentrate for another 30 seconds or a minute, but then maybe some other thought comes to your mind, or maybe the same thought comes to your mind. Now, there's some thoughts that are very difficult to get rid of, especially if it's a thought that's important to you. Like, you're losing your job, or somebody, a loved one, is serious illness, or some other kind of, it's a very important issue in your life. These are difficult to deal with, in meditation. But, you can always contemplate, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, actually those impermanence and suffering caused by clinging to one's opinions and ideas, or clinging to anything. And the delusion, the clinging even to the sense of yourself. The deepest part of delusion is thinking, I am the doer and I am the owner of this mind and body. So you have to contemplate in terms of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. These are skillful thoughts connected with the Dhamma that can help the mind let go of those thoughts, and then, keep coming back to your meditation. So now, if those keep coming back, the negative thoughts keep coming back, the second one was the person should scrutinize the drawbacks of those thoughts. And so, like, scrutinize, examine the drawbacks of sensual desire, how, you get addicted to things, and you're dependent on objects of beauty, and your desire, to make you happy, or to bring you fulfillment. But knowing that the drawbacks is those things can be changed very quickly. And the habits that cause you to then maybe you have to spend more money because you want to follow your habits, and then then you have to work more, or maybe if you don't have money to do that, you might resort to breaking precepts, telling a lie, or taking something that's not yours, or so many things are triggered off by our desires. To see the drawback of that, and also the drawback of harboring anger or ill will, because it's a poison. Think that this anger is not hurting that person. That anger is not hurting those people out there. It's only making our mind more contracted and generating more ill will. So you have to see the drawback of that, or how foolish the thoughts are, that there's no way you're going to ever get the object of aiming of what you're doing, like you're entertaining a fantasy of whatever, what you would do if you had $1 million, or different things. We like to entertain, fantasy thoughts. So just see the uselessness of that. So see the drawbacks of harboring such kind of thoughts. So hopefully by doing that, the thought may drop away, and you come back to your meditation subject. Now, the third one is if those thoughts are still arise, or different thoughts arise, you should pay no mind or pay no attention to those thoughts. But I mean, usually that's not it's not going to work, because if you did, the reason why you keep on coming back to them is because you're giving attention to these thoughts, and you can't kind of avoid it. But there's another way of, you can trace the thought back to its origin, one that I've used a lot and that I've found helpful in my own practice, is trace the thought back. Let's say, how did this thought arise in your mind? Well, because I've, keep on thinking about it. Okay, it's a habit. And, what's so important about that thought? And trace it back. What triggered it off? Well, somebody said something, or I saw this on an advertisement, and then this thought came into my mind. And then you can try to follow that back a little bit in your own life to see what the origin it might have been. But and while doing that, the thought may drop out of your mind. The main thing is you stop thinking about the thing that you're attached to in the thought, and you try to again substitute it with another thought, or just try to, as it says, just pay no attention. Think of some other thought. Again, a skillful thought. Then the fourth one is, it says one should attend to the relaxing of the thought formations with regard to those thoughts. So you can tell yourself to relax. There's no point in thinking about these thoughts now. Just try to relax. And it gives the example of, if a person is walking quickly, they should think, why don't I walk? Why am I walking quickly? Let me walk slowly. And so I'm walking slowly now. Why don't I just stand? And then why am I standing? Why don't I lay down? So you give up the grosser posture for a more refined one. And this is where you can analyze the things into their elements. Like analyze what the object is. If it's a person, analyze them into just being the elements of earth, fire, water, and air. Or if it's a human being, they're just billions and billions of cells, molecules, and atoms all plastered together to form some puppet. I mean, basically most people are like just a human puppet. That means they're all conditioned in their mind, and they're bound by their karma, and they're not, they're just repeating habits, and they don't have any original thoughts of their own. They're just copying others and so on. So you can kind of break it down that way, or to see how, all these people that are all attached to their egos, and essentially everything is empty. So again, it all comes back to contemplating anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Now the fifth one, sometimes this fifth one may work, but it says, if all those other things you've tried, and these thoughts keep coming back, then a person should clench their teeth and press their tongue against the roof of their mouth, and should basically kind of just crush the mind with their awareness, or just drive it out. And I actually, when I was a young monk, I tried that a few times, and actually sometimes that actually works, but other times it may create a lot of tension. But anyway, so the main thing is just don't sit there and get carried away in your thoughts for a long period of time. You have to, understand that it's Mara. So we're dealing with Mara is our mind, all the various thoughts, our memories, desires, and so on, the way that we think. Most of it is driven by Mara, which is delusion. Basically, Mara means the delusion, and the greed, hatred, and delusion that's in our mind. The little self that doesn't want to let go. We're clinging, to the sense of I believe this, and I want this, and I think this, and so on. Even if it's even for the Dhamma, there still can be that clinging. So but the best way in all of these is contemplating, how everything is impermanent and everything is conditioned. Everything, even all the beliefs, they're also, conditioned to how you're brought up as a child, the societies you live in, the people you run with, and so on, and even things you might have brought with you from the past lives. And so, and basically to develop concentration, that's the mindfulness, and ultimately developing more concentration and mindfulness is going to be the best way to overcome these distracting thoughts. The quicker you can notice the thought, then the easier it is for it to, drop away. But most people, because their mindfulness isn't sharp enough, these thoughts lodge in the mind, and then they, get carried away. And that's why, really, in my point, in understanding and so on, that the development of mindfulness of the body is one of the best ways to develop to being able to observe your mind. So if you can just watch your body sitting there and breathing and develop that concentration, sitting, breathing, when a thought starts to come in the mind, your mind is already centered in the body. And so it's closer to where thoughts are arising from. And so you'll be able to notice that thought much quicker than if your mind wasn't kind of more centered to the body and feeling the subtler sensations and so on. So that's why, we in fact also that we do, I have you, do the yoga exercise and deep breathing before sitting down to meditate, and then try to hold that outline of the breathing body in the mind's eye, and to have more to feel. The more things that you have to feel, especially just the raw sensations, the physical sensations of the body, the more you can notice the sensations. When a thought comes up, you'll be able to see that more clearly, and that anchored to the sensations will help the thought to drop away. So anyway, this is what I wanted to mention tonight. So now I want to open it up to see if anybody has any questions on any of those methods for overcoming the distracting thoughts, or it could be some other related question. Okay, so
I've got that one. It prevents it from the grasping to becoming. That gap from grasping to becoming. These 5 things help with that.
Okay, that one of the people that is here at our center, in the room here where I am, has asked, had a comment that where these methods now. You've all heard of the, the dependent origination, the 12 links of dependent origination, and I've given talks several times on the three links of craving, grasping, and becoming. Okay? So craving, grasping, and becoming are where our thoughts arise and how they build up. So craving is the initial thought that comes into your mind, maybe the initial thought of somebody that you have ill will towards. And then you have to then identify, this is ill will. And if the mindfulness is strong, maybe it'll drop away. But if you start thinking about it more, that craving turns into grasping, and grasping is the continued thinking about it. So the craving is just the initial stimulus or thought that started the ill will or the sensual desire or the delusion, but if you have strong enough mindfulness, it will cut it off and it won't turn into grasping. So grasping is where you've started to develop a whole chain of thoughts about this particular object. And then it builds up to the point of, becoming, where you might then actually take an action based on those thoughts. So most of the grasping, most of these thoughts that we're talking about is the mind grasping after the object that triggered off the thoughts or the topic of that object. So basically, what we're dealing with is that's especially what a craving turns into the grasping. And that's where you use these different methods for being able to break that grasping. That means continuing thinking about the object so that it doesn't lead you to take some action based on that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else have any? Kimberly, I see a golden hand raised up there. Go ahead.
I don't think that my thoughts are all that
I can't hear
horrible.
you. You're muted. Please unmute yourself, I think.
I am unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Are you talking? I can't hear you.
We can hear her, Bhante. Okay, let's change the sound settings. Bhante, check. Can you hear me, Bhante?
Can anybody else hear Kimberly? Maybe it's me.
Yes. Can you hear me, Bhante?
Just bring in chat.
Chet, can you hear Kimberly talking?
Yes, Bhante.
Well, I can't hear you.
Okay.
I see her red mic is muted. Ask her to unmute.
Right.
There you
I
go.
am unmuted now.
Still, I can't hear.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah,
Can you type it in the chat box? Well, did you type it in the chat box, Kimberly? Number 1 in the chat box? For some reason, I can't hear you, and I don't know why. I heard. Let me see if I can hear somebody else. Unmute yourself, Udiana. See if I can hear you.
Bhante,
Somebody unmute themselves and talk.
I can hear
Hello,
you.
Bhante.
So I'm not hearing you.
I can hear Kimberly also, Bhante.
This is Walter. I can hear
You're
her
gonna
as well,
have to,
Bhante.
type it in the chat box. And if you can hear me, at least I'll try to give an answer. Okay. Somebody gave a chat box. How can I deal with constant scattered thoughts? Well, that's what we've been, all these different suggestions. You have to identify the scattered thought and then substitute it. Ideally, it's only going to be by developing concentration and the ability to notice the thoughts, and also sometimes you have to understand, why do these thoughts keep coming back? Is it something you're doing in your daily life? Maybe something that happened during the day. And it is that happened if you were busy and you're worrying about things, and naturally these kind of constant scattered thoughts will come into the mind. But you know, these especially this sutta is actually dealing with, you know, these specific thoughts connected with greed, hatred, and delusion. Kind of other just basic scattered thoughts may or may not fall under those categories. Okay, somebody says we can hear, they can hear Kimberly, but I can't hear anybody. And I don't know, I heard Udiana at the beginning when we were, before we started the program. And I heard Dragon Yogi one time say something to me, but now for some reason, I can't hear anybody.
Yeah. You cannot hear me now, right? Cannot hear me. Yeah. Something on your side.
No, it's up. Now this is off. Now it's not. What happened?
That is good. That is okay.
Yeah, I'm
Microphone.
sorry, folks, about my mic. Before this was making noise. What happened? It doesn't look like it's on. What's going on here? Is that blue light on over there?
Bhante, can you hear me?
Yeah, for some reason you can't hear any of us. I'm not sure why. But,
Can anybody hear me now? No. Yes?
Yes.
You can? But I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. That's the problem.
Yeah, that may be true. The speakers somehow.
Okay, Kimberly wrote it in the chat box. Okay, my thoughts are pretty mundane, usually about my to-do list. They don't seem to be based on greed and anger, but maybe more on delusion or self. Well, of course, if you have a lot of things to do, naturally these are going to come into your mind. And that's why usually especially when you go on retreats, you minimize any kind of distracting kind of things. You know, when you go on an organized retreat, they minimize, you know, like all the various types of work and going here and there. So therefore it's easier to, you know, develop concentration in a retreat situation. But the more things that you have to do, naturally these are going to come into your mind. Of course, you're identified with it. I'm doing these thoughts, so they're based on yourself and worrying about yourself, that you have to do all these things, of course. And but you know, there's no simple way of overcoming that except for, you know, trying to do. That's why, you know, doing some yoga exercises in the beginning to generate more sensation in the body, and doing some deep breathing is a way that might help you to. The more sensations you can, physical sensations you can notice in the body, it will help to the mind stay more centered. Live broadcast mute is muted. I'm not muted on my screen. It's not muted, but it's so I don't know. My tech expert, Prashant, is not available. I remember during guided meditation, you mentioned why we get lost in thoughts, because we didn't see it coming. Then when we notice the thoughts, thinking stop. But after a while, other thoughts come up. How to stay longer in quietness. Well, it's a matter of developing concentration. I mean, really. That's why counting the breaths is a good technique, because it gives you something to do. Just sitting there and without having something specific to do, it may not be enough to hold the mind's attention. So either that's why scanning through the body or counting the breaths can help to develop some more concentration that will hopefully then cause the thoughts to subside. And again, as I always say, that the more body sensations you can notice, because the body sensations are very pleasing. We have to generate something that's more pleasing than our random morbid thoughts or just distracted thoughts. So that's why by developing, and that's why, again, I've said so many times, and we do it, and by generating, doing exercise and deep breathing where you're generating more sensations, and then once you get grounded and develop that awareness of sensations, it's much easier than to keep the mind from wandering off in thoughts. Personally, I often find that counting the breaths is not enough to stop my mind from wandering. But concentrating on the 4-part breathing is. Also getting enough sleep and meditating in the morning. Doing the 4-part breathing, the 3-part breathing, maybe you found a 4th one. But that's why when we start the yoga, I always say try to, draw the air from the lower lobe up to the middle to the up. And you train yourself to do that 3-part breathing. It requires more concentration to do that. That just watching your breath without trying to control it is not enough to hold a mind. But when you deliberately practice the deliberate 3-part breathing and develop the ability to breathe in longer and slower, hold the breath in longer and out, that is one of the most powerful ways of developing concentration in my experience. But of course, you don't do that for the whole meditation period, but you start with that and you can come back to that 3-part breathing, during the meditation whenever your thoughts kind of speed back up again. So, but people will ultimately find their own ways of learning how to do that. But in my experience, the 3-part breathing connected with, tuning in to the subtle sensations, because they're very pleasing for the most part. So the mind is always looking for something pleasurable. If it's not going to find it in the body, it'll create, just get distracted and think about itself or its problems or its worries. So that's the thing. We have to, and that's why when you develop concentration and you start to experience piti and sukha, that is what holds the mind. That's how you're actually develop one-pointed concentration, is because the jhana has this piti and the sukha in it, which holds the mind. Is it possible to watch my breath and thinking at the same time? You can, like even like what I in the guided meditation, I say, as you're breathing, just being aware of breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. So you're thinking about sitting and breathing, but it's connected with the breathing. So you're thinking and breathing at the same time, but it's a very limited kind of thought. It's not like your mind is all scattered and running around. So you give it something to you give it something to play with, but that such as a limited amount of thinking, like repeating, counting the breaths, or just doing the three-part breathing, or reminding yourself of breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, whatever helps you, or even like Buddho, as you're breathing in, Buddho on the out breath, Buddho, or sometimes Thai forest teachers using a mantra with the breathing to help to gain concentration. Anyway, friends, I think time is getting away, so we're going to bring this discussion to an end and try to work with some of these things during the week. And next Wednesday, I'm leaving for California next Thursday morning, but next Wednesday evening, I should be able to give this class and just try to think up some other questions rather than giving out a topic. Just try to think of some question that to ask. Hopefully, we'll get the the microphones working better. That every week it's something new that comes up. So anyway, so let's take a couple minutes to break, and then we'll get ready to do some breathing and some yoga stretches and sit down for a meditation. Okay? Okay, see you back in a few minutes.
Let it start. Mhm. Good time. Ticka, ticka, ticka.
friends, I hope you can hear me. Just try to stand straight, relax your arms at the side. Gently close your eyes, focus on your feet pressing the floor. Feel that weight in the body pressing the feet in the floor. You feel your arms and the hands hanging at the side. Feel the clothing touching the skin. Feel your head balanced on top. Feel your eyes in the socket. Feel the outline of a standing body. Then begin some three-part breathing. Begin by expanding your abdomen, drawing the air up to the middle chest, to the upper chest. So that expansion in the upper chest, hold the air in for 2 seconds, and slowly breathe out. Try to do that three-part breathing several more times, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. We're going to begin these coordinated exercises. With an extend breath, raise the arms over the head.
And here, Bhante. Isa lang na. Okay.
Begin in breath. Straight up, bend back a bit. Do the arch in the spine. Out breath. Once more in. Straight up, bend back, hold it longer. Do the arch in the spine. Out breath. Do the last bit of air go out. Keep feeling the standing body. Don't let the mind wander. Whatever you can feel, the strongest, feel that. Just keep telling yourself, it's body, body, body. You want to have something of the present moment to think about. The mind is lost in various thoughts, the past and the future. The body's always right here, standing, breathing, sensation. On the next in breath, lift up on the balls of the feet, raising the hands over the head, pushing the hands toward each other, stretch. Out breath. Use the in-breath to help lift up the body, blowing up the helium balloon, the body rises up. feeling the body with a subtle sensation, increased heartbeat, pulsations, even the clothing touching the skin, more sensations you can notice. At times your mind carried away in thought. If there's any aches or pains, feel those. Side bending, the in-breath with both arms up. The out-breath, bend over the right side. Hands parallel to each other. Fingers straight. In-breath, lift up. The other side, out-breath. Feel the sensation. In. To the right, out. Once more to each side. Out-breath over the arms. Feeling the body. Remember standing, standing, standing. Feel the clothing touching the outer skin. Subtle life force sensations under the skin. You really get lost in thought and the wonderful sensations in the body. Next will be the knee bending or squatting. And the next in-breath, lift up on the toes, balls of the feet while raising the arms up front to balance. Out-breath, bend the knees and lower down the balance on the balls of the feet. And down as far as you can. Squatting position. The deep breath, lift up to the muscles of the legs, pushing the body up. Up on the toes. Out. Out-breath, relax. Feel the increased heartbeat. Clothing touching the skin. Pulsation. Legs standing, standing, standing. twisting, again. Out breath, twist to the right. Right, focus on the hand going back. And breath back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body. Twist to the other side. Out breath. Keep alternating sides with the breathing. More to the side. With each foot pressing the floor. Including touching the skin. All of any sensation. Pull the outline of the body and the mind down. Foot touching the floor, hands at the side, head on top. Now bring your legs back together. The head turning from right to left. The in-breath from the left to the right. Include the right shoulder. Right breath. And go back to the left. Look over your left shoulder. Feel a twist in the neck. In-breath to the right. Out left. More to the side. Start in the middle, feeling the body. Increase that force vibration. During the cells, molecules, the body constantly vibrating. Using all these present moment sensations. Okay, one last exercise. Backward and forward bending. Turn the palms facing outward so the little fingers touch together. On an in-breath, lift the hands up level to your eyes. Spreading the arms out to the side as you bend back on the out breath. Keep your eyes open. Carefully lift up on the in breath. And on the out breath, lower the arms down towards the floor. Let the little bones in the lower spine stretch out. Try to keep the legs straight. Feel the sensation. Begin lifting up. Bring the palms outward again. In breath. Out breath, arms out to the side. Bend back. In breath. And out breath. Downward stretch. Stretch one more time. In breath. Out. In. Out breath. Downward stretch. Hold it a little longer. Feel all the sensation. Bend the knees a little bit. Lift up on an in breath. Bring your hands together at the chest. Out breath, hands to the sides. Feel the whole body. Present moment, body centered awareness. Looking into a mirror. Watching the body expanding and breathing. With the eyes closed. Okay. Let's come back to our seats. So we're sitting.
And we couldn't hear anything during your yoga instructions.
खाने पे किया we were having trouble hearing the yoga and I hit the key. Yeah, sorry.
我知啊，我聽到好似話咁啊咁樣，我即刻去嗰度睇，又唔見你搭車喎，咁我咪繼續喺後邊做嘅。我聽到你嘅，我聽到啊，好似有個人叫我媽咁。唔係啊，我喺後邊㗎，所以我自己咯。我以為你 meditation 你我係十呼要係，但係突然間我話 grandma warning 嘛，而家佢啊，而家佢嗰度。你做嗰份係咪要摸廁所啊？你做嗰份係咪要摸廁所啊？可能係啩。
Po, can you turn off your mic?
Can't hear you.